Hello and Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the New York chapter of TCF-USA, I'm delighted to welcome you to our first virtual fundraiser. My name is Kashmala Sharif Sehgal. I have the honor of serving on the board of TCF-USA. I also serve as the co-head of the New York chapter, and I have been intimately involved with TCF for over 14 years, mashallah. I'm personally proud to support the Citizens Foundation, which is the largest organization providing education for underprivileged children in Pakistan. My journey with TCF started when I, together with my family, my husband and my children, we visited one of the schools and was completely taken aback by the high quality of teachers and education given to the thousands of children in Pakistan. TCF has built over 1,650 schools, educated over 266,000 children. What particularly attracted me was the emphasis on education for girls. By its mandate, 50% of the students in each TCF school must be girls. 100% of our teachers are women, and TCF is the largest employer of women in Pakistan. I know not many people know that, but it's a fact. In order to meet our goals for this year, we really need your wholehearted support. We are here virtually. I wish we could have been together in person. I know most of us are tired of being on video calls and Zoom calls, but I promise we have a great program that will be truly worth your time. We have a tremendous list of distinguished guests who share our passion for education. Please remember that TCF enables the underprivileged students of Pakistan to realize their dreams, and they need our help to stay in school more than ever before due to COVID. During the program, you will see how TCF has provided relief efforts and how we have engaged our children first through remote programs and then by reopening the schools safely. Please remember that TCF is not just about education, but it's also about the communities it serves. The lack of education is the root cause of poverty in Pakistan. I'm personally touched that so many of you are spending the time to join us today. With that, I turn it over to Harun.
Thanks, Kashmala, and welcome everyone. We very much appreciate your support and involvement here. I can't underscore how amazed I was at our response rate at this event and how many people are joining us today. Kashmala gave a beautiful introduction for the organization. I think this is one that we promise you is worthy of your support. And we've got a great program for you today. We won't take too much of your time, but we do feel like it's worthwhile for you to hear the story of TCF, hear what's going on, and hear why this is an organization that's worthy of your support. I'll tick through the program briefly. I'll be moderating today's session along with my co-moderator, Sidra Iqbal, who's a renowned journalist who is a goodwill ambassador for TCF. I will introduce her in a bit, but other than our moderation, we have a long list of great guests. Mushtaq Chopra, TCF's founder himself, he's going to be sharing with you the perspectives of TCF in Pakistan, giving a first-hand account of how the movement started. We've got Riaz Kamlani, who's TCF's Executive Vice President of Outcomes. He's going to talk about TCF in Pakistan and the reopening of schools in a post-COVID environment. We've got Marina Khan, who's for many of us a very special and renowned actress and household name. She is a staunch supporter of the TCF movement. She's going to share her perspectives. We've got Shoaib Akhtar, who's a legendary cricketer, commentator, YouTuber, long list of credentials, but known for his sportsmanship. And then finally, we've got Ali Sethi, who's going to be sharing with us not only his perspectives on how education has helped him in his life, but also sharing with us a few songs as entertainment. But before we launch the program, we had a short video that we just wanted to start with, just to give you a little bit of a flavor for TCF and what the organization has done for the underprivileged children of Pakistan. So with that, let me have the video come up.
किरणों से अक्सर अंधेरों में भी हो जाते हैं उजाले मिल सकती हैं राहों को मंजिल चलते जाए अगर हौसले संभाले अगर चल उठे ये सब दिए रोशन होगा ये मुस्तकबिल ये तो है तारे सबकी आंखों के तारे इनको कोई सवारे इनको कोई निखारे मासूम सी आँखों में जितने सपने हैं एक दिन ताबीरों में ढलेंगे ये है यकीन यही होना है कल हिम्मत से अपनी ये दुनिया जीत लेंगे हम ले चले ये कारवां कोई मंजिल ये तो है तारे सबकी आंखों के तारे इनको कोई सवाल है इनको कोई सवाल है
With no further ado, let's Sidra take over, please. Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, let me just give a quick, because she deserves an introduction here, given her background and her credentials. I do want to give a couple comments on Sidra. Sidra, many of you may know her through the journalism world. She is one of the most celebrated broadcast journalists of Pakistan. She's been associated with mainstream journalism for over a decade, with her core focus being on local politics and socioeconomic issues. Her passion for social justice, economic equality, has really enabled her and has made her a champion for education and the disparity that exists in Pakistan. She's an advocate of equal empowerment, women empowerment, and because of those elements of sort of her personality and her focus, she has been a longstanding supporter of TCF and the model that it's created. Officially speaking, Sidra is a goodwill ambassador for TCF, and so she spreads a lot of the message around education as a policy influencer within media communications. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Sidra. Sidra, we're thrilled to have you, and we can't wait for you to moderate our subsequent sessions.
Thank you so much, Harun. This is such a fantastic opportunity for all of us here. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon, America. It's 11 p.m. here in Pakistan, but I feel so awake. I feel so alive being a part of the first virtual gala fundraiser of the New York chapter of the TCF. This organization and the mission that they hold is very close to my heart. But before we get into that, and we have the whole evening to sort of talk about that, I must say that what a year 2020 has been. I mean, yes, there has been that awful scare of the pandemic. It has taken many lives. It has jolted our lives and changed us forever. But more importantly, there have been so many moments that we have celebrated as well. Very recently, congratulations, I perhaps think is due for President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. And what a phenomenal moment to be alive in history and to be witnessing this. I think she, as she was reflecting and talking about the struggle of women who've paved the way for her achievement, I think every woman around the world, every young girl with ambition in her eyes could relate to that. And although she said this about democracy, I think it really sets the mood for our evening today as well, where we are. We're here to advocate for education in Pakistan, making sure that this opportunity and this privilege is made available to every child, be it a boy or a girl. But the way she puts it, when she says that protecting the democracy takes struggle, I think upholding all of humanity's wonderful ideals requires struggle. It takes sacrifice, but there is joy in that, and there is progress. And that is the progress that we are celebrating here today. Because we, the people, we have the power to build a better future. For all of you who are listening, who are tuned in, this is all about having that shared dream, a dream where no child has to ever wonder what it's like to be in a classroom or how his life could have been different. I've spoken about this at multiple forums. It is my good fortune to be the goodwill ambassador for such a unique cause, for such a wonderful, endearing cause, such as TCF. One of the most important things that I've noticed as a journalist each time I've had graduates and alumni of the TCF school system on my show, they have this glimmer, they have this pride. And mind you, a lot of you who are watching, most of them are first generation learners. Nobody in their families for generations know how to read or write. Nobody has understood the importance of education or had the means. But lo and behold, there they were, grabbed the opportunity, had that hunger to really go the extra mile. And when you meet them, there's no that sense of, oh my God, I missed out on so much, or there's anxiety or guilt or shame of any kind that I don't come from a privileged background. In fact, they've made their struggle their biggest strength. And that truly, to me, is the ideal of education. And we'd really be calling out to all of you to come be a part of that and see the magic for yourself, witness it for yourself. We have so many alumni stories. We have people who are friends and patrons and people who've brought this magic to Pakistan, and they continue to do so. And tonight, it's your opportunity to come be a part of this journey as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to introduce to you Mr. Mushtaq Chhabra, who's one of the founding members of TCF, and also Mr. Riaz Kamlani, who's part of our core team. Both of these gentlemen have been phenomenal with the kind of work and the leadership and the guidance that they bring to the team. And I'm sure learning from them is going to give us a wonderful opportunity to understand the mission and the vision of TCF. Because at the end of the day, we all have a legacy that we need to uphold. So let's welcome Mr. Mushtaq Chhabra and Mr. Riaz Kamlani. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Sidra. Thank you for this lovely introduction.
It is such a pleasure. Assalamu alaikum, Riaz Saab, as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. And, each time I get started talking, I start talking about TCF, it gives me goosebumps, it gives me joy, it gives me a certain spark. But Mushtaq Saab, what an inspiration, not just the organization, but your own involvement has been. And please take us back. Let us know about the journey, because a lot of us who are watching, a lot of the people who are watching us right now, probably this is their first introduction to TCF. So the Citizens Foundation, the Citizens Movement, the magic, how did it begin? What was the journey like?
Well, it was magic, like you said it, it's still so clear in my mind. This happened, the story begins in August of 1995. I think all of us can associate or understand the Pakistanis are very fond of talking in drawing rooms and making grand plans and maybe knowing every solution to all problems. But unfortunately, such things remain in the drawing room. They don't see the light of the day. And we were also part of the same setup. Till one evening, we said either we shut up or we do something about what's happening in this country. It was very, very easy to understand that education is the root cause of a lot of problems, a lot of social problems anywhere in the world. If you take intolerance, if you take health, you look at empowerment, you look at any other social evil, the core issue, the root problem comes and zeroes in on education. So we said we must go in and look after the root cause. What we said was that we would go about it in a proper, established, and in a real focused way. So that we said we'll have a organization which builds at least an audacious target like 1,000 schools all over the country. It would be a national organization, not related to Lahore, Islamabad, Karachi. Yes. It would be a system which would be teaching or educating girls and boys. It would be a professionally managed organization, which means that we wanted to create an institution, that it should not die out with the founders. It would be something which has longevity and which would go on and on, inshallah. And finally, we said it will have a transparency, so that if we go out to the donors, we can manage and sort of manage to give them the satisfaction that their money is going into sort of a good organization to the. And so these were the cardinal principles. This was how we started off the TCF. And 25 years ago, we started off with 5 of the poorest localities of Karachi. They were Kachi Abadis, Liari Machar Colony, and we had 2 in Sumar Got, in Yusuf Got. These are all areas which are really the poorest of the poor. And we started off with barely 800 children. And Alhamdulillah, when I look back, we are so fortunate, the founders and the people who are associated with TCF, that dream, you don't see your dreams into a reality during your lifetimes. But Allah has blessed us that we have managed to dream and then see the tabir, or the reality, or the completion of our dreams almost, where you see that today children are successful in every walks of life. Either they're going into further education, into colleges, into universities, and are gainfully employed. So
Absolutely. Very true,
that is.
Mustafa. In fact, if I could just build up on it for our viewers, the ones who are watching, not only do we have hundreds and thousands of kids who are graduating from these schools, a lot of the girls are coming back to teach in these schools. Moreover, I frequently get alumni from TCF who've now been admitted in the best of colleges and universities, not just in Pakistan but around the world, including US. So I think that's remarkable. But just like you mentioned, Mushtaq Saab, these are, where the campuses of TCF schools are run, they are the most underserved, most underprivileged areas of Pakistan. And like the rest of the world, we understand that these areas have been worst hit by the pandemic. Rasab, here's where I would like to draw upon your experience. I mean, the COVID has been bad for everyone, but it's particularly challenging for people whose livelihoods are right now at risk, and perhaps education may not remain a priority for them. So how are you coping, and how is it shaping things for TCF?
Absolutely, Sidra. I think the communities where we work have been significantly impacted. And to my mind, there are two paths to it. One is when the pandemic came and when the schools were closed, what were the challenges and responses at that point in time, and how have we proceeded as schools have reopened. So touching on the first, schools closed down somewhere around March, around mid-March when school closures happened. And we had two big challenges emerging in the first couple of weeks immediately after that. The first was to sustain livelihoods. And when I say sustain livelihoods, I mean for two particular constituencies. Firstly, our staff who come from the local community, who work at all of our schools, whether that be teachers or I am talking that. But also the fact that the families whose children come to TCF schools, for many of them, it was a completely abrupt and almost a life-threatening disruption of their livelihoods. So
Right.
our first big challenge was what role can we play in sustaining livelihoods? The second big challenge was to ensure that children continue to learn. So while schools are closed, what's the role that TCF can play to ensure that these children who don't have access to technology, that they can continue to learn?
Right.
So in that first phase, those two big priorities were our focus, and we did give it our very best shot. So when it came to relief, our first real focus was to ensure that we are able to pay salaries to all our teachers. A number of those households had left, the breadwinner wasn't able to earn. And therefore, to be able to pay those salaries meant that those households ensured that they had food on the table. With that, we reached out to our communities because we do have now a 20-year footprint where we have local teachers, 15,000 staff on the ground. We have 25,000 plus alumni who have now graduated from TCF and are part of those neighborhoods. So they know that who are the households or who are the people in the households who are most deserving and haven't had any relief. We were able to reach out to them, get their credentials, get into a mobile banking partnership to ensure that we were able to put probably a 20-25-day ration allowance in their hands, from which they can go and purchase ration. So in about 2 months' time, we were able to reach out to 45,000 families, provide relief of something like 110 million rupees. And this was right across the country. So this was perhaps the only relief operation happening during COVID time, which had a national footprint.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rasab, there was also a contribution made to the national television where they, promptly came up with a tele-school. And I think it was then your impact was just not limited to the TCF schools, but it was pan-Pakistan.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating story in its own right. So we went into the lockdown around 24th of March. The 2nd of April, we were engaging with the federal government, and they had just launched the TV channel. And they had a number of content partners there, but early childhood education was a missing piece. They didn't have content specific to that.
Yes.
We at TCF have been working on that for the last 2 decades. So we have thematic storyboards, storybooks linked with that, lesson plans, teacher guides, so on and so forth, with a number of those elements already in play. So our very young team, average age probably 27, they kind of got cracking on that on the 2nd of April, if memory serves me right, to take those materials and turn that into a 45-minute television program, something that we at TCF hadn't ever done.
Never done.
Included an exercise segment, storytelling by our own Sania Saeed, who volunteered to be able to do that, and really lesson plans connected to that. 2nd of April, we decided to do this, Sidra, and the first episode aired on the 19th of April. So within 17 days, we were Pull Out a TV program, and we did 18 episodes. The viewership was that about 6 million people every Sunday when the program went out. So this was really a countrywide footprint.
It was phenomenal because, for those of us who are watching from outside Pakistan, there are about close to 20 million kids of school going age who unfortunately do not attend school. So the challenge is pretty high. And when we say that TCF was able to contribute through their early age, the schooling programs and the drafts that they had, the impact was truly through the roof. But Riyaz Saab, do tell us that now, 6 months down the line, although we're probably heading towards a second wave of COVID-19 in Pakistan, but the schools have reopened. And it was such a challenge again, to make sure that the SOPs were followed, the schools were prepared. How does TCF fare in that?
So when schools were reopening, Sidra, in September, we as an organization had two main priorities. Ensure safety of our kids and our staff. And number two, allow all of them to rediscover the joy of learning. And I think it was with this two-pronged thought process that we went into it. So when it came to ensuring safety, all children, all staff wear masks. We cut down our student strength such that no more than 20 kids will be there in what's normally a 33-student classroom. So the load at the school was half. Changed break time, changed the school rhythm and patterns, focused a lot on hygiene to ensure that there's full compliance with SOPs. But then really, when kids come back in, you're not talking about adults, you're talking about a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and for them, life has been disrupted. They have been away from their friends. So how do they come in? How do they rediscover that joy to be with their friends, to be able to learn together? And for that, we did a number of things, but one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is our focus on social-emotional learning. So we put a whole module around that on how the morning will be different, on what kind of learning circle will happen where children will share what they have learned or how they feel this morning. Based on that, what kind of activities happen during the day that allow them to express their emotions, and how does that day close so that if there's any anxiety, it surfaces so that the faculty can actually play a role in sustaining those children through. So with these two priorities, we've restarted our schools, and I'm delighted to report, alhamdulillah, that SOPs are complied with as we go across our network. Children are back in school, attendance is back up, and the process of learning is recommenced.
I think that is music to everyone's ears, because especially when you talk about emotional intelligence, I would like to quote that recently there's so many studies conducted that say that 60% of the kids who are in grade school right now, they will go into professions and careers that have yet to be discovered. So, when we talk about the challenge of education right now, it is paramount that these kids have emotional intelligence. They are able to express and understand their own emotions. And for that, I believe that this disruption and then coming back to school, the process was extremely important. Mushtaq Saab, I'd like to come back to you. We now know that what started out as 5 locations, 5 schools in the most underserved areas of Pakistan is now a Pakistan-wide movement. And with, of course, friends and chapters and, patrons from around the world who'd like to contribute. You've recently gone to Azad Kashmir as well. I'd love for you to share that experience and the visits that you made to the schools, the TCF schools there.
So there are such an interesting story, like Riyaz just said, that when they reopened schools in September, there have been a number of government functionaries, even ministers coming over. And sometimes, having a photo session, because TCF is one of the few institutions which is really following the SOPs to the cross on the T and the dot on the I. And I happened to be on a holiday up north, and my family and I went to Azad Kashmir. And on the way, there's a very small village by the name of Mori Farman Shah. And this school was made during the earthquake days. And I had no intentions, I had no plans. But when I saw the school, I stopped both the cars which were having the family, and I said, I must go in. It was a Saturday morning. The school was in session because they have missed out so much. And from the time I entered the school from the main gate, it was a thrilling experience. On the gate, you could see bottles of sanitizers, a box of masks lying there, and even they had a small bucket of water ready for any instance where if the bathrooms don't have the water's shut down or cut off. So they had a bucket of water, and when I entered, the guard at the gate was smartly wearing a mask. There were circles. There were circles on the entrance and right through up to the classroom for social distancing. And every class I visited, every child, mashallah, was wearing a mask. Every teacher, principal was with the mask, and they were separate. Like Riyaz said, that there were only a certain number of children, not the full strength. So this, because in such a remote location, if TCF or these standard operating procedures can be followed, then this TCF system is surely working, and TCF system is successful.
No, we'd like to congratulate you for that. I feel every time I hear of such stories, it really makes me swell up in pride. But at the same time, Riyaz Saab, Mushtaq Saab, the challenge is very real. Just as we were saying, COVID-19 has impacted the livelihoods of many. Many have lost their jobs. Many have lost their small businesses have been shut down. So for them, continuing to educate their children seems to be a big challenge. And right now, what we fear is that there can be a huge catastrophic number of dropouts, especially when it comes to the girls. Riyaz Saab, one of these challenges, the dropouts is one of the challenges, but what are the other challenges that you foresee when it comes to COVID-19 and the world beyond the pandemic?
So, see, I think, Sidra, the main challenge that it boils down to is dropouts, because going from a place where at reopening we wanted to get kids back into school, the challenge is now very simple: to keep kids in school. And to be able to do that, there is an aspect which is community engagement with parents to ensure there's the right kind of messaging, but also to accommodate the economic pressures that they have. We have a notional contribution from parents, for example, which accounts in a normal year to about 10% of our overall cost. That's already halved in the first few months of the year. Parents are really suffering in terms of their livelihoods, and therefore they cannot contribute. And our goal from a TCF perspective is singular: to do whatever we can to ensure kids remain at school.
Absolutely.
Now, whether that's focusing on the social emotional learning, waiving fees, ensuring that if they can't get a uniform, to ensure that we support them in every way possible to do whatever it takes to ensure that they come to school and that we can retain them in school. But that creates its own pressure on cost, because we have to sustain all of this operation to ensure that the additional support that they need, as well as the additional investments that they need to ensure that the system progresses in this time of the pandemic. So that's really what it boils down to ensure that we can keep.
But I'm sure that we have a lot of people who would be, willing to rise up to this challenge. Thank you so much, Mushtaq Saab and Riyaz Saab, for being here with us. We're getting all the details right now on the screen. You can donate right now. New York Fundraiser 2020. You can mail your checks to it goes too fast, but you can take a look at that. You can also TCF, because the mobile cause is there and there's a number, and this will continue repeating. Thank you so much, Riyaz Saab and Mushtaq Saab, for being here. And one of the messages, just as you say, the emotional connectivity, we'd like to give you a taste of what actually happens at the TCF schools. We have a short video. It's, these kids at the TCF school playing with puppets, and they have a very important message because it's COVID-19, and you'd like to see how they became our ambassador. Let's take a look at that.
Hi friends, क्या हाल है? ठीक हो? Yes. सबने मास्क पहने हुए हैं? Yes. सबने हैंड वॉश किए हैं? Yes. Very good, very good. अल्लाह हाफिज, मैं जा रहा हूँ.
That was so cute. So see, actually, you can actually give out really important messages, and you can really instill these important messages in the kids' mind. Riyaz Saab, just as you mentioned that, all SOPs have been followed, Mushtaq Saab reported all the way up to Azad Kashmir campuses. We'd also want to share with our viewers how the parents reacted. I mean, it's one thing for us to give them the confidence that everything is being done, but the love, the fear, the anxiety towards their kids' well-being is also very real. Let's take a look at how the parents have reacted to the SOPs and the guidelines and the way TCF schools have adopted for making sure that everyone's safe during COVID?
अब देखें, बीमारी तो अभी भी मौजूद है, तो हमें तो इसका मुकाबला करना है। ज़िंदगी में मुश्किल हालात आते रहते हैं, लेकिन जहाँ तक बात है बच्चों की, तो हम तो कहते हैं माँ होने के नाते से कि हमारे बच्चे को तो क्या कहते हैं, गर्म हवा हम लोग कहते हैं, वो भी ना लगे। तो ये तो इतनी बड़ी बीमारी है, लेकिन बिना तालीम के तो इंसान यानी कि कुछ बन नहीं सकता। जब अचानक से स्कूल बंद हो गए तो हम लोग बड़ी टेंशन में आ गए, और बच्चे भी मुख्तलिफ सवालात करते थे कि मम्मा स्कूल कब खुलेंगे, अब हम दोबारा कब पढ़ने जाएंगे। तो हम भी बड़े टेंशन में थे। शुरू में तो कुछ टाइम तो ऐसे गुजर गया, फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता TCF ने बच्चों से और पेरेंट्स से रब्ता किया। उसमें मैगज़ीन्स वग़ैरह भी हैं जिसके लिए इन्होंने बच्चों को और पेरेंट्स को बुलाया, और इस तरीके से जो स्टूडेंट हैं वो और पेरेंट्स और टीचर का आपस में एक समझ लें कि मिलाप हुआ, आपस में मिले, और टीचर्स ने बच्चों को कुछ तालीम के बारे में भी बताया कि बेटा आप घर में इस तरह पढ़ सकते हो, पढ़ो, और ये मैगज़ीन्स हैं, इसमें आप काम करोगे। तो बच्चा दोबारा यानी उस रास्ते पे गामज़न हो गया, वो चलने लगा, तालीम की तरफ उसने दोबारा रुजू किया। हालांकि इससे पहले जब स्कूल बंद हो गए तो बच्चे फालतू टाइम अपना ज़ाया कर रहे थे, जैसे कि मूवी वगैरह देखने में और गेम्स वगैरह। लेकिन जैसे इन्होंने मैगज़ीन्स वगैरह ये चीज़ें स्टार्ट की तो बच्चों का रुझान उस तरफ से हट गया और दोबारा ये इस तरफ आ गए, तालीम की तरफ। और इसमें सबसे अहम किरदार TCF का है। उन्होंने तालिब इल्म का, स्कूल का और टीचर का रिश्ता कायम रखा, उसको टूटने नहीं दिया। और तालीम तो ज़रूरी है, लाजमी हम उनको कब तक घर में बिठाएंगे। तो हमारी मर्ज़ी इसमें शामिल है कि स्कूल खोले जाएं और बच्चों की तालीम जो इतनी ज़ाया हो गई, इतना टाइम उनका ज़ाया हो गया, उसको कवर किया जाए। और इस चीज़ का हमें मुकाबला करना है। अब कब तक करना है इसका तो कुछ हम कह नहीं सकते, तो लेकिन हमें तो इन ख़तरात को लेके ही चलना है अभी। तो TCF के शुक्रगुजार हैं कि वो इतनी बड़ी जिम्मेदारी अपने ऊपर ले रहे हैं और स्कूल वो खोल रहे हैं। तो हम मुतमईन हैं TCF में अपने बच्चों को भेज के कि इन्होंने हमें इतनी यानी कि अवेयरनेस दी है कि हमारा बच्चा अगर TCF स्कूल में पढ़ने के लिए अब दोबारा आएगा इस बीमारी के बाद, तो वो जैसे घर में महफूज था वैसे यहाँ भी महफूज होगा।
जी, welcome back, Harun. So you saw this really heart-touching video, how the mother says that she's really happy with the arrangements that have been made. But coming back to our task and for our goal for tonight in Pakistan, today for US, because we have a difference in timeline. So what are we aiming for?
Look, I think it's, I will tell you up front that this is a very generous community. New York City and New York more broadly was one of the first US chapters that launched when TCF entered the US. And the community itself has comprised of many generous donors, as well as a broader group of people that have continued to sustain the TCF movement. I think it started with the biggest donor at the time was Mr. Suraj Dadaboy, who through his companies, a collection of companies, built 5 schools, which then later became 8 schools. He lives in London now, but he still supports TCF schools. We've had many other donors, Munib Assam, Rayan Jafar, Usman Nabi, among others, that have, collectively built schools that have been, instrumental to, TCF's growth and success. These days, I'd say there's 8 schools that we've adopted that we continue to support every single year. And it costs about $20,000 to educate a school, to fund a school and its operations for a year. So that really means 1,500 children across those schools depend on us for their livelihoods, for their education. And it's really incumbent upon us to support them. So today our goal is really in line with that. So $160,000. It's a virtual fundraiser. We're trying to keep ourselves tempered in our expectations, but we're hopeful that the group here will support and bring up to us a level that meets our goals. we have, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a number of the school details that are coming up, and it's where they're located, how many students there are. These are very, very established schools and have real student populations that again depend on
Absolutely.
this.
The far-flung communities, the underserved, the underprivileged, many of these children, once again, I must repeat, are first-generation learners. You've literally brought education to their families, to their communities for the first time. The numbers are phenomenal. We have 466 schools in Punjab, 600 plus schools in Sindh, 233 in Balochistan. And the ask today is to sponsor 8 TCF-USA schools. The number is 160,000, but we must also give you some other magic numbers. I mean, whatever really, really appeals to you. So it takes, if you would like to support a school for a whole year, like their entire operations, that is going to cost you something like $20,000. If you sponsor a classroom for 1 year, all the kids in that classroom is $3,200. Educate a child for all the way from kindergarten to grade 10, it's $1,300. Educate 5 children for 1 year, it's $600. Or educate a child for an entire year, it's $120. So these numbers mean a lot to people's lives, their livelihoods, and their dreams, and it's all about keeping their dreams alive.
And I think that the couple other things I'd note, especially for the New York community, which are very important. One, all donations are zakat eligible. They're all tax deductible. TCF-USA is a 501c3. And importantly, corporate matching is a big part of our financial contributions. We've got over 200 companies that match. So would really emphasize that, for those of you that are involved with the corporate world. I do think it probably makes sense to just pull up our thermometer and see where we are. I'm hopeful that we've made some progress along our goal.
So we've had some pre-event pledges as well, and we are aiming for $160,000. We have surpassed $65,000, and we have the names coming up, Harun, as well. So there's Umar Munis, there's Amber Habib, Noshin Babar, Tania, Mohammad Farooq Esmale, Kuma, Ali Agbotwala, Shahzad Ajmal, and that list just continues. Thank you so much, guys, for your generosity, for your support, and your help.
So I think we'll continue to bring up the thermometer every so often. We do hope that you guys will continue to support us and to donate over the course of the event. But with that, why don't we continue with the program?
Absolutely, Harun. I'll see you shortly again, and we're going to have the thermometer come up, and probably your appeals will be far more effective. But let's call upon someone who is truly a living legend, someone we respect immensely as an actor and as a director as well. All the way when she had begun her television career. Back in the 80s with Pakistan Television, she was a household name. She truly is an ambassador for the country because she is well respected, not for her craft, but everything that she puts her weight behind. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming one of the shining stars of Pakistani showbiz, Pakistani drama industry, Marina Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sidra.
Assalamu alaikum, Marina. Such a pleasure to see you, and what a great cause to be together for.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
So New York is alive, and New York is watching us right now. It's an afternoon for them, a Sunday afternoon well spent. For us, it's an evening. But I'm told that when it comes to TCF counts on you as a dear friend, as a generous friend. And there is a particular story that is very famous. It's about the house help that you have, and how education really changed her life, transformed her. So I'd love for you to share that with our viewers, please.
Sidra, it happened last Eid, I think Choti Eid, because our domestic, he doesn't take Sundays off, so he takes a combined chutti, and then he goes to Khar for 20 days and all. So we asked her to stay on for an extra few hours while he's away. So she just sort of, she's very fond of us, so she calls us Mama and Papa, you know. So first we thought she didn't have parents, but she does, but she still calls us Mama and Papa. So she said, Mama, can I stay here? So I said, of course. She said, मैं रात रह सकती हूँ. मैंने कहा, बिल्कुल रह लो. So then Kuchu also came, and that's my husband. And he said that, you know, I said, yeah, we let her stay. So later that evening, I found her, sitting alone, and she was crying. And I said, what's the matter? And then she told me the story that her husband, who often doesn't beat her up badly, but I mean, you know, slaps her around, but they live with the brother-in-law. But even the brother-in-law raises a hand to her. And this time, apparently, and over what she was reprimanding her child, because the child obviously is looked after them, and he's the apple of everyone's eye over there. And basically, the brother-in-law riles up the husband and says that, you know, she was reprimanding your child, and she said this to him. So everyone gets worked up. So this time, I don't know why they took such a drastic stand, but they literally threw her out of the house.
Wow.
Literally. I mean, like they just threw her out of the house. And thinking that she had nowhere to go now, you know, and so she came to us. And then suddenly, when they realized that this girl has some kind of a refuge, you know, things started changing. But it was during that time that I realized that this girl is partially educated. And then how she handled the whole thing, like she left the kid with the husband, because her only demand or her only thing that she used to tell her husband is that, Dekho, I will tolerate anything you say to me, but your brother doesn't have that right. And because she was probably the most educated in the entire lot, she would come up with very logical answers for their, you know, I would say silly questions or, you know, behavior. And I think that sort of probably, rubbed them the wrong edge. So I said, listen, you stay as long as you want. This is what. So then the husband came the next day. I had a long chat with him. I made him realize that this girl is here at her own will. We are not forcing her to stay here. We're not keeping her by force. She can leave anytime she wants to. But till she gets what she wants, but till she is in this problem, she can stay with us for as long as she. And the husband came, and then the child at her, and then the sister-in-law came, and the same sister-in-law threw her out of the house, who was also related to her. And एक दिन उसको बज्जलन कह दिया कि तुम गैर मर्दों के घर में, things, really, वो जो चीजें हम अपने ड्रामों में देखते हैं, things like that. So she just turned to them and said, okay, fine, if you think that I am bajjalan and I have a bad character, then why does my husband want me back? And people don't say things like that. Women don't say things like that. Yes. And I was so happy, I was so proud. I mean, even though no one wants to destroy anyone's house, but I was so happy for her that she stuck to her guns. They were throwing everything, the kitchen sink at her, and she was just sort of, throwing it right back at them. And I think, that's when also I realized that, if this girl was totally giant, she might have got emotionally blackmailed, or she might, and I might be totally wrong, but I think it was that education in her that she had that made her think sensibly, made her realize she talked to him in a very normal and a nice manner. She wasn't screaming or shouting or saying ki tum ye kar do, wo kar do. She just said that, Dekho, you get your own place. I'm coming back to you. And she was pregnant also, by the way. I forgot to mention that. She was pregnant at that time. And one then realized that, can you imagine if she'd had a proper education, a full education, where her life would have been?
Absolutely.
And, that's what it sort of, it sort of, it shakes you, it moves you, because we in our day-to-day lives, and we don't think on those lines.
But Marina, that's where the cultural barrier comes in. I feel that examples like these, when women really stand up for what they believe in, when they become courageous, when they express their opinions or they uphold their boundaries, that's when certain communities, especially the ones that don't have education or would not like their girls to be educated, they start assuming that girls become too headstrong. They become too stubborn. Dimag kharab ho gaya. So how do you think we can actually let them see that this is actually transforming and this is the strength for your child and not something that will make them, an outcast in the community?
Obviously, as you said, a lot of the schools, the kids are first generation education. They are going to also have, I'm sure, a lot of issues in their homes, because obviously they learn something in a school and then they go to their homes and it's totally the opposite. And then they'll say, लेकिन मेरे teacher ने कहा था, और आगे से, बाप ने या माँ ने एक तरह teacher ने कहा, So there is a lot of challenges those kids are also going to face. But this will take time. But we have to be patient about it, and we have to realize that education is your key, is what is going to make. I mean, look at America right now. We've seen that where the educated classes and where the uneducated classes with Trump. It sort of shocks you when you talk about the first world country, the leader of the world, and suddenly you see a lot of people who think and follow an ideology which is jahilana. It's not just the education, it's jahilana. So I think good education, good teachers, that is another very, very key thing. Good teachers that you can remember. I think in my growing up years, I think in the last Zoom call, I said that I was never a good student, but I do remember 2 or 3 of my really good teachers, and I excelled in those classes. So I think an overall, and I think TCF does that. It's not just the education; it's an overall education that you give.
And the environment, Marina ji, sometimes when you are coming from an underprivileged background, हम कई दफा सुनते हैं जी टाट का school, footpath पे school. They believe in giving every child that perfect environment. I mean, that school building that can be your safe haven, where you can go, you can learn, where you can explore ideas. They have the best of facilities. I think that's when the real equalizer happens, when it tells you, yes, the world is your horizon. So I would really want you to put your weight behind asking people to come forward and give us 8 new of such schools tonight.
Inshallah, they will, because I think Pakistanis do have a very big heart. And I think you just have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to know that if you want to see a prosperous, a solid country, then this is the answer. There is no other answer. There is nothing else better than giving a child a good, rounded, well, educated future. I mean, that's basic. And I really, really appeal to everyone who's watching that, from the any amount, you don't have to dig deep into your pockets, because I think any amount goes a long way. And it's just,
I think I'll add to that by saying, don't dig deep into your pockets, but dig deep in your heart and know the kind of impact you can make. But thank you so much, Marina ji. Thank you for that beautiful, warm smile.
Something very, very small because the Masters is on. I don't know if there are any golfers out there, but TCF holds a match every year at KGC, which is where I play golf. And since I started playing golf, one of my very first tournaments that I played was for them, and I won.
Congratulations! Congratulations to you for that.
Net, not gross net. For the golfers,
but some good news to celebrate, more good news to celebrate in 2020. But thank you very much for being here. And I'm sure that your word and you asking people to come forward is going to go a long way. Thank you, Marina ji. Again, I'd like to call upon my co-anchor, Haroon. Haroon, if you can join us and we can bring up the thermometer and tell us how hot is it getting out there.
Let's do it. Let's see it. Wow, we just got.
Oh my God! Is this for real?
I have some news to share. We just had an anonymous donor who has donated a $250,000 endowment fund to fund the lifetime operations of the Sophia campus. So we have been blessed by such generosity in the community. It's amazing to see the growth that we've already exceeded our goal by almost 2x.
We've actually doubled it. Yes, you're right. What a phenomenal evening this is, and we are just getting warmed up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic lineup for you. Harun, thank you very much for that update. My heart goes out to all the people whose names are popping up right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, universe, for making all of this happen. Harun, you'll be back in here, but let's quickly go towards our legendary cricketer who's phenomenal at what he does. He's world-renowned. He's affectionately known as Rawalpindi Express. It has its own share of controversies and struggles, but he's managed to ace them all. And might I tell you, now that we have this world of social media, he had his, the fastest million people subscribing to him on his YouTube channel. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Shoaib Akhtar.
Hi.
Assalamu alaikum Shoaib, क्या हाल चाल है?
वालेकुम सलाम।
बहुत शुक्रिया हमें ज्वाइन करने के लिए। आपकी पूरी दुनिया में फैंस हैं इस वक्त, आपको देखना चाहते हैं, सुनना चाहते हैं, खास तौर पे क्योंकि हम बात कर रहे हैं स्ट्रगल्स की। शोएब, मैं सबको बता रही थी कि अभी अ लॉट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स जो TCF स्कूल्स में होते हैं वो फर्स्ट जनरेशन स्कूल गोअर्स हैं, यानी उनकी आबा व अजदाद में किसी ने स्कूल की दहलीज कभी पार नहीं की थी। तो ये इतना बड़ा लाइफ चेंजिंग मॉन्यूमेंट उनके लिए होता है। आप उनको क्या कहना चाहेंगे, क्योंकि मुश्किलात का सफर करते हुए यहाँ तक पहुंचते हैं वो?
Sidra, we all struggle, and you know it. In order to be successful, you have to go through the hell of fire. Absolutely. So my message is to people, the people that actually trying to make it through. उनको यही चाहिए कि do not worry about the failures. Failure comes. Failure only comes because it just wants to make you better. That's only the failures happens to you. This is the only reason that I can find. If you're daler enough, you're brave enough, आप तगड़े हैं, आप अच्छे हैं, तो failure दिलेर बंदे के लिए एक मंजिलात का सफर होता है. So again, I'm saying is that कि education, where I got my education on the street basically. I just went through the hardship of my life in terms of I've been taught by the best of the institution, which is the roads, and tape to bahut padhe hain mujhe. So you've been slapped a lot, every now and then, but at the same time, my belief were that I need to make it through somehow. I need to get myself educated. I need to learn my English through the foreign people, through understanding their culture, through the education system, So my biggest wish was, Sidra, that I wanted to actually study. So what I'm doing is right now, I actually have plenty of time to study. So I'm putting myself back into the hell of fire, basically, to study again.
Super. Yeah. Because learning has no limit, learning has no age. But Shoaib, I would love to ask you this, क्योंकि आप हमारे जो rising cricket talent है उसके लिए एक inspiration है. They look up to you. आप बताएं कि कभी कभार जब हमारे ये under 19 के players पहुंचते हैं किसी इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पे और उनको वहां पे रियलाइज होता है कि वो जुबान नहीं जानते, अंग्रेजी नहीं बोल सकते, एजुकेटेड नहीं है, तो वो अपने कोर टारगेट से, अपने क्रिकेटिंग टैलेंट से भी थोड़ा सा हिल जाते हैं, डर जाते हैं कि शायद वो फेस नहीं कर पाएंगे. आप क्या कहेंगे उनको कि एजुकेशन कितनी मस्ट है आज की दुनिया में आगे बढ़ने के लिए?
पीछे कर दीजिए, पीछे कर दीजिए, लाइट पीछे कर दीजिए, there's too much light. Sorry.
You're glowing.
Education gives you the wings, Sidra, in order to fly higher. Sidra, I always believe the educated cricketer can do so much better than an average cricketer who's not educated. Right. The padhai, the education gives you the wing that you fly in a thin air. जहाँ पे जोर जोर से आपको फ्लैप नहीं मारने पड़ते, वहाँ पे आपको सिर्फ gotta glide through the air. You're just gonna flip up the wing. You're gonna ascend, and flip of the wing and descend. So this is what education does to you. What education does to you, it is gives you the horizon, or gives you the the level of understanding, or analyze it कि यार आपको जिंदगी में करना क्या चाहिए. So if you're educated, then you can do a lot better. आप एजुकेशन से मैंने ये देखा है कि आप छोटे नहीं होते हो, आप जेलस नहीं होते हो, आप थोड़ा सा बड़ा होने की कोशिश करते हो. Every now and then you try to look beyond and out of the box kind of thing. So this is what education does to you. So it's not about being liberal, it's about being understanding towards, now we are beginning to understand as a nation, Sidra, I'm very happy to know that, our society is beginning to know what is the women participation in this culture.
Right.
So we're beginning to understand that we need to empower women somehow to collaborate with us. So ये हमारा job है. So this is what education does to you, to understand, to give rights to women in terms of to empower them.
Since you're talking about the women and how the women can be the change, and of course you are our legendary cricketer. But before that, since you've traveled the world, the world over, the way people think, the way people react and respond to such appeals. Right now, we are live at the New York Gala. So I'm assuming a lot of New Yorkers and people all over the world are watching us. What is your expectation? By the way, we've just crossed our target. We've doubled our target. We were hoping to raise about $160,000. We've crossed $336,000. What does this say about New Yorkers and people who are watching us right now?
The only thing I'm going to say about the New York, God bless New York. I love the city, by the way. And I mean, like the people who were telling me that you go visit New York, get out of the London, go out in New York, live the life that you want to. So when I saw the New York, it scared me, literally scared me. When I met the people out there, it just gave me the liberating feeling that people are just out there to achieving the dreams. But the generosity of the people in New York, it's really amazed me every now and then. Either it's Shaukat Khanam or these are either you guys, what you're doing the fabulous job. So I'm just saying, I just feel at times, the good people are around us. The good people they're just always there for you. You just need to tap the right buttons, So they always come forward to help you, So God bless New York. I love you all. Thank you very much. Keep participating. Hamara $336 away, but double it more. I want $1 million because I don't want.
Wow.
I don't.
Now you're really giving them a target. Let's go for $1 million. But Shreyab, tell me something. What about the girls when they play cricket? I have a special surprise for you. Can we have that video up here where we can talk about how she is the change? We talk about how girls take a lot of interest in everything that was previously thought to be out of bounds for them. We have Shreyab Akhtar with us, and we are told that they're now also taking keen interest in cricket. So let's take a look at that, and we're going to continue chatting with Shreyab then. So keep her dreams alive. If she wants to be a cricketer, she wants to read, write, soar in the skies. Tonight is the evening where you make her dreams come true. Shoaib, what would your reaction be to watching this really moving video about how girls and their lives are transformed? Because we are being told that 11 million girls may not go back to school and they might be dropouts because of the pressures that COVID has brought. So therefore, this night, the fundraising is even more important.
Super important, Sidra, and my heart goes out for the girls that who can't go or can't make it to the school. Sidra, I'm just gonna tell you my kind of a story. What the people actually go to sleep to see the dreams. I see the dreams who doesn't let me sleep. ख्वाब सो कर नहीं देखते, ख्वाब वो देखो जो सोने नहीं दे.
Absolutely.
So this is a message to the girls. ख्वाब वो देखो जो आपको सोने नहीं दे. There is one society who actually has empowered women. Has to be Islam. Started from Khadija till the Aisha or Habiba to Zainab al-Islam, or to the most beautiful, gorgeous lady, Bibi Salamullah alayha, Fatma Zahra. If you see the contribution of Bibi Khadija, heart goes out जब मक्के वाले तंग करने आ गए, तड़पाने आ गए आप इस्लाम को. तो बीबी खदीजा ने क्या खुतबा दिया, आज तुम वो मेरे दरवाजे पे आए जो उधार मांगने आए थे, जो मुझसे उधार लेने आए थे. So this is the empowerment that Islam gives to a people such as a gender of the women. So now I want this 11 million girls to go back to the school. I want women to be empowered. This is the one society who cannot progress with the help of women. Take my word for
Absolutely.
it. Do whatever you want. No
you're
matter
kind
what
of-
you do,
I
you
think
can't
you're
progress the
absolutely
society
right.
without a women. You can't. You have to understand the rights of the women. सबसे पहले क़यामत के दिन एक चीज तोली जाएगी, वो है सलूक, तुम्हारा रवैया औरत के बारे में. सो अगर जब तक आपने रवैया ठीक ना रखा, आपने बिहेवियर ठीक ना रखे, आपने राइट्स का ख्याल नहीं रखा, तो आप कभी प्रोग्रेस नहीं कर सकते. सिद्रा, this is very important.
It's such an important message. Thank you for reiterating that. Thank you for being a part of the New York Gala. You're absolutely bang on that 50% of the population is women and girls. If you don't take them along, there can be no real progress. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Sidra.
May I now once again invite Haroon so that we take a look at the thermometer and find out what's happening with the fundraising.
Let's do it. 341. We're making progress. You heard the goal from Shoaib. We want to hit $1 million now. That's the expectation. So we still have some more to go. But thank you all for your generosity. Let's keep the program going.
Absolutely. Haroon, very quickly before I call on our next amazing guest, how can people actually contribute? What are the different ways that they can be sending their donations?
Great. Yeah, no, it's an important point. So there's a donation link for those of you that are tuned into our streaming platform. It's showing up at the bottom of the link. You've got the TCF-USA website. You can just Google TCF-USA and there's a donation link online. You can send checks to the address noted here, or you could just text the number on the screen, which will also give you a link that you can then donate on. For those of you that would want to donate personally, Kashmala was on earlier, you can just text her your pledge and we'll make sure to fulfill it. But again, all of these options are available, and we look forward to your contribution.
Thank you so much for those updates, Haroon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the final figure might be when we end the fundraiser, but the best is yet to come, as we've promised people. Our next guest is someone who we all love because of his songs and his music. He's hit the scene very recently, but he's really taken it by the storm. Some of the numbers, and people love how he's in his element when he's performing them. Tonight, we're going to hear from him about his journey and how he's formally pursued music. I'm sure he had similar pressures like you and I from society, from parents to pursue another or a different line. Comes from a very coveted, stream of journalists and people who are in media. So going for music, was that hard? Did he have the liberty or not? Let's find out. So without any further ado, let's welcome Ali Sethi.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. And black seems to be the color code for tonight. All our guests, including me, have been, sort of wearing black. How have
It's
you been, Ali?
it's convenient. I'm well, thank you. How are you, Sidra? Congratulations on putting this, or to TCF on putting this event together. I can see that we are getting funds for this excellent cause, and I'm very happy to be a part
We've
of it.
actually crossed 2x. We're very happy, and you've been
Oh,
very
very good.
lucky for our fundraiser as well. So tell
Fantastic.
me, our theme tonight is all about keeping dreams alive. What has been your dream, the one that you've been pursuing, and has it already come alive?
Well, the thing about good dreams is that they never really fully come true. You're always striving and questing on the path to your dream, and that is how it should be. I think as you mentioned, I had a kind of unconventional career choice, which was that I decided after sort of, going to an Ivy League university that I wanted to pursue the study of classical music in a rigorous way. And I think the reason for doing that was that well, first of all, I'd always been in love with, Pakistani, Indian, South Asian classical music, and had always been fascinated by it because I felt that it contained the kind of, in some ways, shall we say, the antibodies to the kind of extremism and polarization that we see, unfortunately, nowadays in all of South Asia, where you have hostilities between nations, you have groups within the nations that are extremist groups and that kind of promote a narrow, ideological story about who we are as a people. And yet I always found that through music, you could kind of bring 1.52 billion people together. I mean, Pakistanis, Indians, Bangladeshis. I went to Bhutan and performed there, and people who don't speak Urdu or Punjabi were moving to all of this. In the diaspora as well, we find this in North America, in the Middle East, everywhere. And now, increasingly, actually, you find that when you perform this music for international audiences who have no sort of, ancestral connection with South Asia, they too respond to it and are fascinated by it. So it's a universal language. And I
Absolutely.
think I had a kind of almost archaeologist's fascination with it. I wanted to decipher it, if you know what I mean.
You were
So
unearthing the secrets and the
absolutely,
mysteries.
there you go. So I've always had a kind of Indiana Jones fantasy, and this was my moment. So I
But Ali,
struck
tell me
out.
something. I mean,
Yes.
since we are talking about this, and people from South Asia can very well relate to it. In fact, the whole of Asia can relate to it. Our connection or our relationship with education is unfortunately very transactional. Every time a child wants to pursue a degree, the parents would turn around and would ask the counselor, "What's the scope of the degree?" In other words, meaning how much will he get paid once he graduates with that?
Right.
Do you think that's changing in today's day and age?
Well, that's a vast question. Is it changing? I can certainly tell you that even though I had, the privilege of going to what was supposed to be the best schools Pakistan had to offer, in retrospect, I do realize that my experience with education in our country was also very transactional, as you have said. In fact, I was talking about this with a friend the other day about how, having been through, the best private school education in Pakistan, the best sort of tuitions, and that whole culture of kind of, getting the international standardized tests down and getting the grades. And when I arrived at Harvard University as a freshman, I didn't know how to write a paper. In fact, I remember in my expository writing class, in the first paper I handed in, I basically just reproduced what the teacher had said in the class, and I thought मुझे number मिलेंगे इसके, because that's what I had been trained to do, was to reproduce verbatim, almost word for word, what you read in the textbook, what the teacher said. Don't think for yourself, don't think outside the box. Only ratify, memorize what you have been given, and you will get 70 out
And
of 100.
reproduce. Yes.
Exactly. So I did that, and the teacher circled that thing and said, "Come and see me in my office hours." So I went to see him. He's now a very famous author. I went to see him in his office hours, and he said, "In this country, we call this plagiarism." So I was a little taken. I said, "I've never heard that. I had never heard that word. I thought it was related to plague or something." I said, "But what do you mean? What have I done?" And he said, "No." He said, "You're not the first student, international student, who's done this. I just want you to sit down and understand that, in this country, we don't do it like this. We need you to think for yourself." So for me, that was a really stark thing. And actually, I will say that having gone through a sort of, 12, 13 year apprenticeship in this classical Eastern, in some ways pre-colonial, pre-modern sort of form of study, which is classical music. I found that in our pre-colonial forms of education, including hikmat, including commentary on philosophy, astronomy, all those disciplines that were fused in the pre-modern world. There was actually a lot more room for imaginative engagement inside an educational framework. There was subservience and sort of submission to the ustad. The ustad is almighty, the teacher is almighty. But then there comes a point where you are expected to make your own contributions. I think the corruption really occurs inside this colonial setup that we have, unfortunately, still in Pakistan, in both private and public schooling. And I think this is why we really have to make an effort, because of course the colonial project is a transactional one, right? Where you are not really in command of your own destiny. So you are just, you're serving somebody else's interests, as it were. And so we have in Pakistan, and I suspect in much of the decolonizing world, we have residues and remainders of this attitude, which is that education is just a means to an end. It's a way to survive almost this stormy path, and then once you're at the desk and you've got your kursi, then you can really do as you please. But as you realize, the means is the end. They are connected.
And the biggest disadvantage to that is that you're putting a timeline to learning as well. Because you're thinking that you'll graduate, you'll do your master's, you've done your MPhil, and that is it. You've reached the pinnacle of learning, which unfortunately is, or fortunately is untrue. What you need to do is continue learning for life. So what has 2020 taught you?
2020 has taught me that periods of rest and periods of crisis and periods of isolation, like the Sufis have actually always taught us, are great opportunities for introspection and for reflection and for meditation. If you are privileged enough, in fact, to be able to afford that retreat. I know a lot of people who have little children and who have no time to themselves, but I think it is definitely a time for all of us to think about the meaning of life and what is it really that gives meaning to life. And when we go back, inshallah, I hope, to our lives with greater, control and greater ability, I hope that we can prioritize things that really do matter to us and the people that matter to us. I think that is what I've taken away from it.
So just like all the posts have been saying, if you can't go out, go inwards. So you've really delved in, done some introspection, and I'm sure that's going to come up with brilliant contributions to your music as well.
I hope so.
Inshallah. So you'll be back with some music for us, but thank you, Ali, for joining us for this quick fireside chat right now and putting your weight behind our fundraiser. We've already crossed our mark, but we hope that by the time you finish your performance, which you very kindly agreed to do for us, we'd be, hitting new numbers, and all this contribution is definitely going to keep a lot of dreams alive. It's going to give another lifeline to them. So thank you, Ali. We'll see you back here for your performance shortly.
Thank you so much.
And with this, let's welcome Haroon back. I'm going to hand it over to him. What a fascinating evening this has been, Haroon. How have you enjoyed our conversations with Marina, with Shoaib, and with Ali? They've been quick. I felt so bad cutting them off because, we were short on time. It's New York, chop, chop, chop. But at the same time, everybody had such amazing things to say.
I agree. No, look, I think, everyone made some very, very good points. I think the theme for tonight was really around empowering and educating women. And that is such an important tenet for TCF and the philosophy that they embark on by educating girls, employing teachers, driving agents of change in Pakistan society. And it's not just about education, as we started in the very beginning. It's about a way of life and really changing the way people think. So I'm very, very thrilled and proud of the support we've gotten today, and I think it's been amazing to see the generosity of the New York community. But on that note,
absolutely go ahead.
Should we? I'm just so curious. I'd love to see the thermometer.
Yes, the thermometer. Let's take a look.
343. Wow. I think not bad. I think
not bad at all. I think we want to address this by the time we're over. I mean, the gala, the virtual event is over. We'll probably have, would be close to 360. What do you say?
I think that's probably right. I know a lot of people prefer to donate with checks and individually. So definitely for those of you that prefer to do that, don't be shy to reach out and let us know. You know, we do want to get to, you know, whatever it is. I think we've gotten 16, the equivalent of 16 schools for a year, one of which is the endowment. So definitely a thrilling response.
Initially, when we were saying 8 schools, we were looking at 1,100 students. So if I'm not wrong, 16 schools would mean double the number. That would be 2,200 students. And that makes me so, so grateful and so thrilled. I mean, Arun, we spend so much time bad-mouthing 2020, but really, if you look at it, so many good things have come out. And one of those amazing highlights for me would be being a part of the TCF fundraisers. This is my second one. And I truly feel that when you connect with people and when you make an appeal for a cause this strong, what you receive in return are these positive, amazing vibes. Thank you, everyone who's contributed and who's continuing to do that. Your generosity, your contribution makes a lot. No contribution is small, be it be even a single dollar, because what you have become is part of that magic, and this magic is so important. What say, Harun?
Absolutely. No, and I always come back to something, you know, as a New Yorker, I love my Starbucks, and every day that cup of coffee, the cost of that cup of coffee, I should say, for a year literally funds the education of a child from KG through matriculation in Pakistan. So just to put that in perspective, is something so small for us, something that we take for granted can literally make a massive difference in the lives of many of these children. So it just, I think it's only incumbent upon us to take that responsibility, to fund the education for these children, and to help change the landscape, I should say, of Pakistan.
And I think this year it has been so much about flexibility and adaptability, and if one needs to really think of innovative solution, which is the real core of education. It's just not about learning a curriculum. It's about design thinking. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about adapting to the changes around you. But we are so grateful, and I think I've expressed it, Harun has expressed it, our entire team and people are here, but we really want you to hear from our students, the faces that you light up, the lives that you touch and you change. How do they respond to your generosity? And this is a big shout out of thank you from them. So let's take a look at that. Yes, dream big, and thank you for all of that. So this literally breaks it down. It's the classroom, it's the playground, it's the ability to dream, the fun that they have, the teachers that you provide. So thank you very much, guys, for being a part of the fundraiser. Harun, I'm going to hand it over back to you because we know that Ali is going to be up next, and that's perhaps the finale a lot of people have been looking forward to.
Yeah, and I'd just like to underscore, and I know we'll be back, but Sidra, you have done a phenomenal job at helping us get through this evening for you, this afternoon for us in New York. But I just want to emphasize our gratitude and the value that we've gotten from your involvement and support. So thank you for all that you do for TCF.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody who's been tuned in. It's over to you, Harun. Run the show.
I think I'm just going to in the interest of everyone who's probably eager to listen to Ali and the amazing voice he has and the amazing songs that he sings, I would like to call up Ali to give us his performance.
Here I am. Can you hear me okay? Yes? I'm going to take that as a yes. All okay? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to begin with a song, since so much of this is about education and about educating those who are less empowered. I'm going to begin with a folk song that is performed traditionally by women at wedding ceremonies. And it's a song that the women of Punjab sing to other women, to fellow women. And it's a song of departure, and it's a melancholy song. But it contains also a kind of critique of patriarchy, right? So you have these aunts and cousins and girlfriends saying to each other, we didn't love our parents any less than our brothers. And yet we did not become heirs to their property. We were dispatched, sent off to Pardes, as it were, because this is the way of the world. And our souls and our bodies bear witness to this enormous social transaction, which is a marriage between clans. So I thought I'd begin with this. As you'll see, we'll progress. We'll tell the story of our societies and the stories of many of the people who have articulated some of those glorious, ecstatic feelings as well as those non-conformist positions. Here is Sammi Meri Waar, which you know from Coke Studio.
गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारे सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारे सम्मिए सम्मी मेरी वार मैं वारी सम्मिए सम्मी मेरी वार मैं वारी सम्मिए ओ गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारिए सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारिए सम्मिए सम्मी मेरी वार मैं वारी सम्मिए मापियां दे घर पलिए निसमिए मापियां दे घर पलिए निसमिए कानू दुख दे चलिए निसमिए कानू दुख दे चलिए निसमिए सम्मी मेरी वार मैं वारियां निसमिए पहली वार मैं वारियां निसमिए ओ गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए गिल्ली गिल्ली बनियन सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारिए सम्मिए पैर संभल के उतारिए सम्मिए सम्मी मेरी वार मैं वारियां सम्मिए.
And now, another song quoting Bulle Shah, who is my favorite Sufi poet from Punjab. And he has this wonderful saying, Masjid dha de, mandir dha de jo kuch denda. tear down the temples and mosques and all other monuments to worship if need be, but don't tear down or step on or trample a human being's living heart, because that is really where God resides. It's a beautiful mystical refrain, and
मस्जिद ढा दे मंदिर ढा दे जो कुछ ढंगा एक किसे दा दिल ना डाई रब दिलां विच रंदा यार डाडे इश्क आतिश लाए हैं यार डाडे इश्क आतिश लाए हैं यार डाडे इश्क आतिश लाए हैं वे यार सानू वे दो सानू वे यार सानू लग गई बेअख्तियारी सानू लग गई बेअख्तियारी सीने दे विच जज़्बाई है यार डाडे इश्क आतिश लाए है यार डाडे इश्क आतिश उल्हुला के इश्क जो आया उल्हुला के इश्क जो आया मोहब्बत वाला शोर मचाया मोहब्बत वाला शोर मचाया घटी घटी शाम आई है यार डाडी यार डाडी यार डाडी दोस्त डाडी यार डाडी दोस्त डाडी यार डाडी इश्क आतिश लाए है यार डाडी इश्क आतिश ओ यार सानू ओ दो सानू ओ यार सानू लग गई बेअख्तियारी सानू लग गई बेअख्तियारी सीने दे विच जज़्बाई है यार डाडी यार डाडी दोस्त डाडी यार डाडी दोस्त डाडी यार डाडी इश्क आतिश लाए है यार डाडी इश्क आतिश यार डाडी दोस्त डाडी There we go. This is a beautiful
kalam that I performed with the great Pakistani singer Abida Parveen on Coke Studio about 4 years ago. And it's a song of thanksgiving, a song of gratitude. Ye sab tumhara karam hai, Aaka ke baat ab tak bani hui hai. It's a very beautiful message. It is due to your support, due to your blessings, that, you know, my raft, my boat, my kashti is afloat, my enterprise is still going. It's sort of a message that is conveyed from a position of true humility, and I think all the people who are joining us today in this effort, whether they are the organizers, the hosts, the people who are participating with their art, the people who are making donations, most importantly, the people who are making donations. I think that really this applies a lot to our country, especially. Governments may come and go, may, you know, state-sponsored programs may deliver or not, but the truth is that a lot of good work is done by people who contribute to charity, and that is it's a really hope-giving and inspiring thing to be a part of such an initiative. So ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका कि बात अब तक बनी हुई है. अब हम दुआ भी करें कि बात को मज़ीद बनाया जाए आपकी डोनेशंस के साथ और इस तरह की एफर्ट्स के साथ, TCF के काम के साथ. तो here is a little bit of ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका कि बात अब तक बनी हुई है.
ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका, ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका, के बात अब तक भली हुई है. ये सब तुम्हारा करम आका, के बात अब तक बनी हुई है. किसी का एहसान क्यों उठाए, किसी को हालात क्यों बताए, किसी का एहसान क्यों उठाए, किसी को हालात क्यों बताए. तुम्हीं से मांगेंगे तुम ही दोगे, तुम्हारे दर से लालेंगे. है ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका, के बात अब तक बनी हुई है. मेरे मालिक, मेरे खालिक, मेरे हाजत रवा, जब नहीं हो साथ कोई, बस तेरा है आसरा. मेरे मालिक, मेरे खालिक, मेरे हाजत रवा, जब नहीं हो साथ कोई, बस तेरा है आसरा. छाए कहीं जो गहरा अंधेरा, तेरी अता से आए सवेरा. तेरी ही खलकत चांद तारे, तूने ही बख्शी ये रोशनी है. ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका.
There we go. How much more time do we have? I want to know. I know that we're coming to the end of our program. Can somebody please let me know? I have another song that I really want to sing here, which is a song that I have written. Actually, I took a share from a beautiful beautiful ghazal written by written by Saifuddin Saif. A couplet of it you have heard in the movie Pakiza, if you've seen it, beautiful. चांदनी रात बड़ी देर के बाद आई है, लब पे एक बात बड़ी देर के बाद आई है. And just going to find the right tempo for it. It's a song of togetherness, and it's about the value of collective efforts. The video, if you've seen it, made by Pakistan's terrific filmmaker Sarmad Khusat and Awais Kohar, they together made this video. We filmed it in a dilapidated old greenhouse in Lahore, which looks like a kind of, it could be a train station, it could be a sort of spiritual place, it could be a dream space, where people from different walks of life, representing different perspectives, different experiences, are separately seated in little pockets, isolated from one another. And then the song starts, and through the song and through voice and through music and through the message of togetherness, all these people sort of come together with their different subjectivities. So I think that is a very important message of inclusivity and tolerance that we have to reiterate in Pakistan, where unfortunately we have a long way to go in this regard. Very important to support the cause of equality for all, for disadvantaged groups, gender equality, as well as equality for minorities and those who are not often heard in public spaces. So here's Chandni Raat Badi Der Ke Baad Aayi Hai, Lab Pe Ek Baat Badi Der Ke Baad Aayi Hai.
न खुले अगर ख्वाब है तो ख्वाब सही न खुले अगर ख्वाब है तो ख्वाब सही ये बड़े दिन के बाद ये मुलाकात बड़े दिन के बाद लब पे एक बार बड़ी देर के बाद चांदनी रात बड़े दिन के बाद चांदनी रात
And there we have it. Thank you so much for having me. आपका सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you for being a part of this effort. And inshallah, I hope that next year, post-vaccine, जब कोरोना वायरस का खौफ जो है वो कम हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह, तो हम लाइव शोज करेंगे आपके साथ मिलके और झूमेंगे और इस चांदनी रात को एक रियलिटी बनाएंगे. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali, for the exceptional performance. On behalf of the whole audience, I can say that this was truly inspiring as a performance, and really was a way that brought us all together behind music, as you said earlier in your comments. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for being such a powerful ambassador to TCF and the cause. So we do wish and hope to see you live, inshallah, in the future, as you noted, once the current environment is behind us.
Inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to just conclude the program and thank everyone for joining us today. This was the generosity that you all have given us, and TCF is inspiring and keeps us motivated to continue to go and raise funds and awareness for the underprivileged children of Pakistan. I can promise you that everything that you've contributed today, even your presence, means so much to those children. And we hope that the funds that we were able to raise, the awareness that we've built, will continue to sustain the TCF movement for future generations to come, inshallah. So with that, I know you guys have all seen the donation options on the page. Our page will continue to remain active if you'd like to go and make contributions there. Again, you can text, you can donate online, you can send checks. There's a number of options that we will make sure remain available to you. But I won't take any more of your time. Again, we thank you for your Sunday afternoon. We thank you for participating, and we thank you for your support for the TCF cause. Thank you again. And with that, we will sign off.